Item 2B, resolution placing a non-binding straw ballot question on the primary election ballot in Miami-Dade County, Florida, to be held on Tuesday, August 14, 2012, for the purpose of submitting to the electors of Miami-Dade County whether they support the county's current ban on pit bull dog as a dangerous dog breed. That's item 2B.
With that, I know it's not a public meeting, but there's two people that have asked me to speak that represent, and I respect one of the ladies that I've dealt with for many years that has asked for at least a couple of minutes to express. I know Commissioner Soto, this is something that he's been working on for many, many years, and something that he takes also very serious. This is a democracy, ladies and gentlemen. People have different opinions. Respect is very important, and one that I take very, very strongly in this chamber. So with that, I know there's two people that asked me to speak. So with that, Delia and the lady. Wait, do I have a motion? Commissioner makes a motion. I have a second. Okay, with that, thank you. Please come up. The two people are going to give you 2 minutes. Is that okay? You sure? Okay. Come on up. State your name and address for the record.
Yes, hi, I'm Marjorie Glickman, and my address is 13740 Southwest 78th Court, Palmetto Bay. And I'm here today because I've read our pit bull laws, and I've looked at the latest science, and if you would allow me later. Okay.
Yes, later. Go ahead, keep speaking for now.
Okay, yes. That our pit bull laws are based on junk science. They are void for vagueness. Void for vagueness. Please look at the material I'm going to give you from Mars Veterinary. It's a company that does genetic testing on dogs. Their genetic testing is called Wisdom Panel Insights. It says the following on page 5. The term pit bull does not refer to a single recognized breed of dog, but rather to a diverse, genetically diverse group of breeds. Due to the genetic diversity of this group, we cannot build a DNA profile for a pit bull. There's more there on page 5, but the bottom line is that we can't, with any confidence, identify a pit bull. Our law in Miami-Dade County says that the term pit bull refers to any dog which exhibits those distinguishing characteristics which substantially conform to the standards established by the American Kennel Club for American Staffordshire Terrier or Staffordshire Bull Terriers, or substantially conform to the standards established by the United Kennel Club for American Pit Bull Terriers. But we already know from the science that a dog can't conform to the standard of the American Pit Bull because that's not a single breed. Also, what does it mean for distinguishing characteristics to substantially conform? Webster's Unabridged Dictionary defines substantial as being large or a considerable amount. So what percentage are we talking about? That it conforms 60%, 70%, 80%? Please, just a couple more minutes. Thank you. The wording is vague, which again makes our law vague and ridiculous, and it's void for vagueness. And the law goes on to say that the technical deficiencies in the dog's conformance to the standards shall not be construed to indicate that the subject dog is not a pit bull dog. So what this means then is that any dog could be considered to be a pit bull dog.
Okay.
So the law is a bad law, and
Okay.
so it never should have been passed, and I'm asking that you not pass this resolution.
Okay. Thank you for
Thank
your
you
input.
so much for hearing me. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you for coming before us. Go ahead, Betty.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Dahlia Keynes. I've been a resident of Miami-Dade County for over 50-some years. I was one of the first Cuban Americans escaping Castro's regime in 1959. So I have grown with Miami. I came here, and believe it or not, no one spoke Spanish, if you can believe that. And Miami was Miami.
Your address.
Anyway, that's my background.
La dirección. The address.
6448 West 11th Lane, Hialeah, Florida, 33012. I am presently the director and founder for the Miami Coalition Against Breed-Specific Legislation. I think you are aware of it by now, so I'm not going to go into details what it's about. I first want to thank specifically two commissioners, Commissioner Heyman and Commissioner Diaz, because they have worked very hard with the animal community to make a difference, and it is making a difference. Credit has to be given where credit is due, whether we agree on the same issues or not. That's a given. Now, this straw poll ballot here, I am sleeping 3 hours a night because of this. I cannot go into my office because the amount of work that I have to put into this to save dogs in Miami-Dade County. For 23 years, our local government has taught the Miami-Dade County residents to fear anything remotely resembling a pit bull. If you have a large dog with a big head, broad shoulders, round eyes, and a tail attached to it, it's a pit bull. It is insane. I deal with Miami-Dade Animal Services. I have to go see these dogs die on a weekly basis. I have to see these dogs' eyes staring at me, and I have no explanation for them. It's tearing up our families. Thousands and thousands of good dogs, and the responsible owners, law-abiding citizens, have fallen victims to this hideous ordinance, because I have no other term for it right now. I am asking you to stop the straw poll ballot. Instead, let the legislature do its job. The reason why we have it there is because personally, myself, for over a decade, I have personally been trying to work with the commissioners to try to remove this ban any way possible. It's been a no-go. We had no alternative but to go to the state legislature. I understand you have to protect the home rules. By now, I'm really briefed on politics down here, but it is not the right choice. It is not the right path to make. And another thing, we are kind of in a bit of a financial mess in Dade County, to say the least. This is costing the taxpayers on a yearly basis over $3 million to have this in the books to kill innocent dogs. Why? Put the $3 million somewhere else. We want a new shelter? There you go. You got an extra $3 million some dollars. This study, I can supply it to you at your request, and it was done by Best Friends organization.
Delia, thank you. I let it go over because obviously, it's important. You want to add something? I know you weren't there as a bodyguard, that was for sure.
No.
Okay, so
No,
make it brief if you can.
I'll keep it
Name and address for the record.
Sure, I'll keep it under 30 seconds. My name is James Cueva. Address is 1000 Northwest 57th Court. I did submit my comments in writing to you all yesterday. I hope you got it. If you didn't get it, check with your chief of staff. Basically, I'm here today to urge this commission, like Dalia said, to let the Florida legislature do its job. Presently, Miami-Dade County is the only county in the whole state that has a ban that is breed specific and is specific to pit bull dogs. The county also has a dangerous dog statute, which adequately deals with dangerous dogs. I'm opposed to the straw poll. And the reason why is because in 1989, when the commission passed the ban on pit bulls, there was no straw poll. Nobody went to the people of Miami-Dade County and said, hey, do you think it's a good idea to ban pit bulls in this county? The county commission, acting in what they thought was the best interest for community safety, passed the law. The law is bad public policy, and the Florida legislature has recognized that. 2 years after Miami-Dade County passed the ban, the Florida legislature passed a law that prohibited other counties from enacting breed-specific laws. And so therefore, as a taxpayer, as a resident of Dade County, and as a property owner, and somebody who votes in every election that they allow me to vote in, because we don't have open primaries, I am urging this commission to abandon the lobbying efforts in Tallahassee to oppose the two bills that have been proposed, to withdraw the straw poll, and to end 23 years of bad public policy. Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, guys. With that, Commissioner Soto, you have the floor.
Good morning. Morning to all of you, my dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Valentine's Day. I think the attorney has an amendment to that on the, what is the amendment?
It would be to the ballot question, Senator, and it would be on handwritten page 4. On the third line of the ballot question, the words over 20 years ago would be changed to over 23 years ago to accurately reflect the time at which this initial ban was passed.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, my dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to talk to the dog in any specific way. I like dogs. I always had dogs. There was a moment when I had too many dogs in the house, as a matter of fact. I think the law allows you 3. I had 4. So I had different breeds. Grew up with dogs, all kinds of dogs, pointed dogs, hunt dogs, Shih Tzus, Schnauzers, you name it. So the point is not dogs. The point that I'm going to refer to directly is the point of what is America, okay? This is a democratic country, okay? I'm going to refer you to a book called Democracy in America by Alexis de Tocqueville, a book that's about 200 years old, okay? For those of you who don't know about this, it says over 100 years ago, Alexis de Tocqueville, a young French nobleman and astute political scientist, came to the United States to appraise the meaning and actual functioning of democracy in order to understand how it might serve to supplant the outworn aristocratic regime in Europe. Okay? This is a democracy, right? We're in America. Democracy in America is based on municipalities, in the local government. It says here on the chapter on local government, the principle of the sovereignty of the people governs the whole political system of the Anglo-Americans, in other words, of the Americans. Okay? On another part here says, they call it township. The townships are generally subordinated to the state only in those interests which I shall term social, as they are common to all the others. They are independent in all that concerns themselves alone. I believe that not a man is to be found who would acknowledge that the state has any right to interfere in their own town affairs. Tocqueville, over 200 years old. American democracy, the democratic system in America. This county, many years ago, as you have heard, decided on this. This is nothing but a straw poll. There's no cost to this because this is an election that is being set. It's a question in the election, straw poll. Okay? Are we going to not to give the people of Miami-Dade County not to express themselves? Are we curtailing? Are we trying to push something on the people of Miami-Dade County? Can we or cannot we ask the people of Miami-Dade County what they think about this? We're not forcing. I'm not trying to force anybody to think my way or the other way or any other way. We're trying to let the people of Miami-Dade County express themselves. This is America, my dear friends. This is not Cuba, this is not Russia, this is not China, this is not Korea, this is not Brazil, this is not Argentina, this is not Venezuela, this is America. And in America, people can express themselves. In America, people can say whatever they please, as long as they don't interfere with the others. This is a question of a matter of freedom of expression, democracy in America. And democracy in America cannot be controlled by anybody, not the president, not anybody. It's a straw ballot. How can you tell me that we cannot ask the people what they think about things? The day that happens in America, we have to shut off the light, go home, and go to the jungles of the Mato Grosso in Brazil. Are we in America, or where are we? What is this? Who's going to push something on somebody? This is what this thing is all about. Straw ballot in an election. That the money's there, everything's there. So what are we talking about? A group of people with computers and things sending messages all over the place? This is not right, my dear friends. Something here doesn't smell right. And when something doesn't smell right to me, and it goes against the principles of what makes this country great, this is not Cuba, this is not any place, this is America, then it's wrong. This is what we're talking about, my friends. Okay? It's democracy in America. That's what it's all about. Thank you.
Commissioner? Commissioner Hayman.
Oh, thank you. Mixed concerns about this. One is I applaud the shirts that the people are wearing that said it's not the dog, it's the owners. I remember as an owner of a Doberman, the connotations that went behind it. The irony is the only dog I've ever had stolen was my very friendly Doberman. And that's very real. It goes to the nature of how the dogs are socialized and how they're trained. For the longest time, Dobermans and German Shepherds were bred for guard dog and security. But the thing is they're as sweet as the owner's handling, and there's crazy in anything from any species, including human, with a chemical breakdown.
We got a lot of that.
That truly is the exception. So, you know, when you look at this, the irony was, I always thought someone who was intellectual and affluent, because it's a combination, that had the wherewithal and wanted to have a pit bull by generic definition, because it is very vague. If you look at Westminster and Stafford, or Staffordshire and some others, is that there's combinations therein. What percentage and how do you go this way? We have a dangerous dog ordinance on the book. If you're a homeowner and you have any assets, you probably have the responsibility and wherewithal, or maybe even the insurance company, as mine did with the Doberman, to dictate that you have coverage. Because the probability is, if there's an aggressive act, it's within the close proximity to the house or property they're defending. So, you know, we have a dangerous dog ordinance on the book. I have to tell you, the people who are interested parties did their research. We had our previous veterinarian and animal services director that was silent on it, but did say that we were the only one that had a breed discriminatory ban in the entire state of Florida. I don't know where it stands with the rest of the nation, but the irony is also animal services registers aggressive dogs and bites, and pit bulls aren't up there. I don't know if it's because of the numbers, but then again, there's plenty of partial pit bulls out there. That's my concern. The timing is the issue here, though, because it is in legislative play. As of yesterday, is still moving forward. It is going to have a floor vote unless there's something extremely unique like session ends early or something like that, and it's coming forward. And the irony is it's couched in this is Miami-Dade County. This was done by a county that is a charter county with home rule, and they're using it as a staging statement to chisel our home rule. I object to someone else taking care of our business, but we have been remiss in doing it ourselves. My concern is the timing on this, Senator Soto, because today's February 14th, session ends March 9. That's sine die, whatever that may or may not be. And we meet again on February 13th, March 13th, after session. I think time-wise, we should possibly, well, this is one consideration, leave it for right now. I'd like to hear what my other colleagues have to say. I'm fine to defer for 1 month, so it'll be after session to see if they took care of it. And they're making it specific to this issue that is discriminatory, and we've never addressed our own in-house business. And I remember reasons why when I asked about it within the Sunshine and got attorneys to tell me, well, none of your colleagues want to step up to it in the past because they figure the next day there'll be a dog bite and everyone will come after them. Well, there's dog bites all the time. My other concern as it relates to this, besides the timing, is the ability to enforce this. We do not have the means. So, you know, it's a democracy for a straw vote. Yes, Senator Soto, I agree. I got to tell you what I do like about the straw vote idea, since it has absolutely no weight, is it's going to bring every animal lover, every dog owner, and I'm going to champion it, coming to the polls in August. And depending on the partisanship of who's Democrat, Republican, and Independent that has a dog, I think you're going to see this as an emotional issue more than a whole bunch of other things on the ballot that's going to bring people to the polls. So in that case, may have some great merit to it. Maybe we can throw some other good things on the ballot. I think it would be prudent to wait 1 month and see what happens with the legislature, because like you said, it is a democracy, let the people be heard, but it's not going to do anything other than let them hear, and we hear it all the time. If it had great wealth and measure to it, then pretty much every other county and state would do it also, and they haven't. So since it doesn't have any weight, I'd like to see it postponed 1 month to do it, but I'm in favor of getting rid of the ban. We have dangerous things. We have homeowners insurance. If the dog's aggressive in the car, we got car insurance, and I've checked that out also. And there's the liability of an owner who has a dog that's bad. We have rules in our parks. We have 20-something pet-friendly parks now, 7 regional dog parks, and all of them speak to dangerous dog, and now a dog beach. So I think there's measures in place without discrimination, and I thank the Senator for bringing it up for dialogue, but I'd like to see it wait and see if the legislature absolves us from doing our job, since we haven't done it for the 23 years. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Vogel, followed by Bell.
Well, actually, Mr. Chairman, I was wondering if he wanted to address that, because if he entertains moving it back, then there's pretty much no more discussion, I would think.
Do you want to entertain that, or do you want to hear from everybody?
Mr. Chair, my dear colleagues, I think that we have to say what we have to say. I'm not in favor of just, and as you know, I know Tallahassee well. I serve in the House and in the Senate. I was elected and reelected in the House and in the Senate. I know Tallahassee well. Some of you know Tallahassee pretty well. So I don't think that we have to listen to anyone. We are Miami-Dade County. And again, this is democracy in America. We're a municipality, and we have home rule. And Tallahassee is a state, and that is fine and dandy. And I serve in the House and the Senate, as I told you, and I serve in all the great committees of the House and the Senate. And I tell you, we in my opinion, it is a mistake to be bending over, if you want, pardon the expression, to Tallahassee. And to say, yeah, let's see, we had this case before with Jackson Memorial, when Tallahassee took over Jackson Memorial. Remember that? That I had to get and sue the state, and we won. Remember that? Right? Some years ago. Remember that? So you know, I know what Tallahassee is, and I know how Tallahassee works, and I know what Miami-Dade County is because I've been here since 1960, my dear friends and colleagues. And I grew up here, and I went to school here, and my kids were born here, and my grandkids, some of them have been born here. And I have a lot of girls in the family, by the way. 7 grandchildren, 7 granddaughters, okay? So, and 1 grandson. So, you know, I think I know about dogs and girls and boys and, you know, Tallahassee and the whole 9 yards, you know, and growing up and being Cuban and growing up in Miami and so on and so forth. So, you know, what else are you going to tell me? But I know one thing. This is Miami-Dade County. We're very unique, very different from anything in the world. You know, it's good and bad. Good and bad. So, but again, this is America, and this is a democracy. And I want to listen to the people. I want to listen to the people, whatever they say, you know. Whatever they say. We want to go by that. We need to go by that. I always trusted the people. I do trust the people. I have nothing against dogs. We know the law is the law. So this is not about dogs. Well, it's about a law right now, this piece of legislation. I'm talking about dogs, but this is about a piece of legislation. And it's clear and specific. It's about a question to the people of Miami-Dade County, period. That's it.
Commissioner, I think what the commission is trying to say, judging by the faces around here, is that since the legislature, which I have my piece to talk about that in a little bit, because that's a whole different subject that we have to address here, and I'm kind of like wanted to segment into this. But what the commissioner is asking you is that since the time span on an election compared to what is actually going to transcribe in Tallahassee, if you defer this action until hearing what happens, we have a better ground to follow up on what you're trying to do. And it's not about the law. I want to talk about that in a minute. I'm sure everybody here wants to talk about that because that's got me very upset. It is about just the timing of what's taking place. If we defer for 1 month, as Commissioner Hemian said, we will know what we have to deal with moving forward. And you might want to make it a lot stronger than a straw vote. You might not. And that's where I'm trying to tell you.
Hey, may I answer that? Commissioner, we're going to send a message today to Tallahassee. You know, it's about sending messages. We either send a message or we don't send a message. Okay? We either bow down to Tallahassee and say yes. You know, you rule. You know, yes, sir, yes, sir. Or we say, hey, wait a minute. We're the biggest county in Florida. We're of the 67 counties in Florida. We're the biggest one. Okay? We have the highest variety, diversity. We speak a bunch of languages. You know, we have the Cubans, the Haitians, the blacks, the whites, the browns, everybody, Mexicans, you know, Central America, South America. We got everybody here. We are where the worlds meet, as the Great Miami Chamber of Commerce says. Right? Everybody knows what Miami is. Right? So what do we have to bow down to Tallahassee and just like that and say, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. No, this is America, and this is Miami-Dade County, my friends. Okay? So here we are.
I'd like to.
You try.
Well, I wish I could get my kids to say yes sir to me, but
So do I.
that went away a long time ago. Before I get to what I really want to talk about, I do just want to check a couple of things if staff could help me. A statement was made that we're spending $3 million. What is that number? Where is that number? $3 million to do what? And I don't know if you have the answer now, but if you could maybe give us that answer at some point.
Hi, good morning. Alex Munoz, Director, Animal Services. The $3 million number, I'm not sure, and I can make sure that Dahlia didn't get incorrect information because she works with us all the time and is a good friend, but that's actually more than our entire enforcement budget. I don't have a good way of breaking down what it is, but I would venture to say that pit bulls are probably 2% of our enforcement budget based on the number of calls that we get. on the enforcement side.
Okay, don't go away. Can you give us an update on where we are with the legislation up in Tallahassee right now? Where's the bill that Trujillo, and I don't know who's carrying it in the Senate, where are those
Going
bills?
this week.
Is it going to be held on the floor this week?
I think it's one committee and then the floor. But go ahead, he's the one. They should follow up.
I'll follow up with Jess to find that out for you.
If I may, Commissioner?
Please, if you know.
Only because I spoke to Jess this morning. There's two committee meetings that are left, one for the House and two for the Senate. They're not scheduled, but they're expected to be, any time, because the scheduling could be 36 hours, but there's three meetings total. One.
Oh, that group.
All right, wait, let me just, to kind of couch this now. There's 3 weeks left in session? 3 weeks left?
Yes.
About 3 weeks left, right? 3 weeks left. March 9th is the end of session?
They could pull it out of the House and leave it on.
They could. They have their procedures to do this, but I have a feeling this may not be held in a committee. The reality of this thing passing doesn't sound to be very promising, but a lot of things happen in Tallahassee at the last minute, as we all know. Since this ordinance went on the books, have we seen a decrease in, and I want to think back when I didn't pay attention to these issues and just watched a lot of TV and saw kids getting mauled, and it always seemed to be a pit bull was the culprit. Have we seen, since this ordinance went on the books, a mass decrease in, not bites, because I don't think a bite generates a loss or an ordinance, but the kind of maulings that we were seeing where, somebody was just being, I think there was even cases of people dying from the maulings. Have we seen a decrease? Has this, no, let me ask it a different way. Has this ordinance done what it was intended to do?
It's hard to answer it in any way. One reason is we really don't have data going back to 1989. We just don't. I'm talking about last 5 years of data. In terms of it being a low side of what we do on the enforcement, I gave you, that's a real number. It's about 2% of our enforcement. In terms of animals in the shelter, last year we had about 300, and we're pretty, some comments were made about what conforms. We have a standard for what conforms on substantial. It's not just 100%. There's a standard. So we had about 300, close to 400 pit bulls in the shelter. You can use that however you want. Is that a lot? Is that a little? As far as bites, I know you said not bites, but as far as bites, very low, very, very low. Compared to other dogs, quite honestly, the pit bull bites are insignificant. And it's pit bulls, pit bull breeds. So that could say that it's working. But I don't have any way to measure that, to be honest with you. Those are just statistics that I have.
Okay, now, as the owner of 2 golden retrievers that would probably lick you to death,
yes.
If you try to get into my house, they maybe even help the burglar go right to where they need to go. Notwithstanding that, are you seeing cases where, what would happen if a German Shepherd, mauled a child tomorrow? What would happen to that dog?
You would place it, you would handle it as a dangerous dog, and it would be quarantined, obviously, to make sure that there weren't any rabies. But I think, is the question what would happen procedurally, or what would the outcry be?
No, not the outcry. Not the outcry. Let's put the outcry, because that's media-driven hyperbole. You get a case right now where a German Shepherd mauls a child, and I don't want to offend German Shepherd lovers.
Right.
Pick your dog, okay? A Yorkie mauls a child, okay? Is that dog going to be treated? I know they're not going to maul anybody either, but I don't want to offend anybody, Are we going to treat that dog different than when we would treat a pit bull if it mauled a child?
I think I understand the question. Is procedurally speaking, no. It's under the dangerous dog legislation. We would treat them the same under dangerous dogs.
Okay, so this conversation of, because I just want to get to the root of this thing, discriminating against a certain breed really, I mean, does it hold water? If a dog mauls a child, you know, we're going to go after the dog.
We would handle it. Yeah, we won't handle it either way. I think that comment is made because we're the only county that has the legislation. I think that's why the comment about treating it differently comes in.
Okay, and when we pass an ordinance, Mr. Chairman, there's no sunset review in these ordinances that we could review it over a period of time.
Unless it's stated.
Unless it's stated. Okay. You know, my problem is that this thing is moving in the legislature now, and I don't know what the outcome is going to be. I have no problem supporting putting something on the ballot. I really don't have any problem whatsoever doing that, because I think it does speak to the issue of Tallahassee trying to legislate to us on things that we should be or should not be doing. And while I may agree or disagree at times with what the legislature's intent, maybe out of frustration myself of wanting to see something move, I don't like the idea of people now dictating to us what we need to be doing or not. But there is a situation. Should we wait? And I think it might be wise to just wait until after session is done. And if, depending on the outcome, if this thing stalls, then maybe we should send a message to our legislators. And the outcome may be, as Commissioner Hayman has pointed out, dog lovers are going to come out in droves, and you know what? Maybe it's time to review this piece of legislation. But again, I want to be clear. I support and concur with Commissioner Soto, and his wisdom speaks volumes. My only question, colleagues, is the timing of it. To do it, should we do it now, or should we wait a month and do it in a month? And that would be my counsel, to wait until after session's over.
Commissioner Bell.
Thank you. You know, I really do appreciate the discussion here at the dais, as well as hearing from the public. And those here, the defenders of pit bulls, are very articulate. And as a person who has an Akita mix who adopted us, and a Chihuahua who I found, and then a Schnorky, Schnauzer Yorkie, the one that will go after you every time is the littlest one. She will go after you.
Chihuahua, baby.
Yeah, the littlest one. So, but I say all this to say that I know from years and years ago, I had a friend who had a Cocker Spaniel, and she said statistics show that Cocker Spaniels bite far more people than pit bulls do. The problem is the damage that a pit bull can do when it bites, and that's always the problem. I agree it's in the training. I agree it's in the owner, because my Akitas are supposed to be mean too. And this one, I try to tell him, look mean and act mean when people come to the door, because he'll act mean for 2 seconds, and then the minute he sees you, he licks you to death too, the same thing. But I share the concerns of Commissioner Hayman on this legislation, and I so respect Commissioner Soto, I really do. I didn't like the timing either. I thought that, I don't like the state of Florida also delegating to Miami-Dade County, but this is an ordinance that's over 20 years old, and maybe we do need to revisit this ordinance, Commissioner Hayman, and I agree with you on that. I also am very careful about what I want to put on the ballot. When I sign off on something that's a ballot initiative, I want to be very careful that it's very weighty and it's very serious. I wanted to put gambling on the ballot to see how the residents felt about that, and that was shot down. And that's gambling for all of Miami-Dade County, and how that would impact each and every life. And that was voted down because of the fact of it going on a ballot, and it was a straw poll as well. So for those reasons, I'm not comfortable putting this on the ballot at this time at all. I'm not comfortable putting this item on the ballot. I recognize that this is an emotional issue and not necessarily a scientific issue, because we all remember from 20 years ago, and the child, and then the elderly woman, and we remember those things from 20 years ago. So with respecting you, Commissioner Soto, and the spirit of what you're trying to do, and I do, but I don't support this today. I do think the timing, we should wait. I think we should wait at least another month. Let's see what the state of Florida does. Then we can revisit this. Then we can revisit this, and maybe we should revisit this ordinance as well. So I think the timing is not the right time at this time. Thank you.
Commissioner Jordan, you're recognized. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. While everyone is talking, I was reminiscing about the dogs I've had, starting as a kid, starting with a Cocker Spaniel, then going to a German Shepherd, Pembroke Welsh Corgi, and a Pomeranian, and the Pomeranian was the meanest one. But, oh, by the way, if anybody out there is breeding Pembroke Welsh Corgis, please send me an email. You know, I wanted to ask the county attorney, if the legislature passes the legislation that's now being considered, what does that mean for our law?
My understanding is it would preempt our law.
Then we would basically be directed to abandon our law.
A law would be unenforceable if preempted.
Okay. I asked that question, Commissioner Soto, because I really do support your ballot item. And because to me, you're just asking the community, what would you prefer in terms of this legislation? I also have trepidations about the state legislature dictating. I feel that once you get your foot in the door, the rest of it is going to be easy to do. And this, to me, opens the door for them to do that. I do feel that we should send a strong message, but can we send that message before they vote and adopt is the question. It appears that we cannot send that message. And even if they vote a week after, I mean, they would vote a week before, it's going to close a week before we have our next meeting. That's what it is. I have no problems in supporting your item because to me, all it's doing is asking the community, what do we want? What do we want to do as a community? And it gives us better insight as to whether or not we need to change our own ordinance by asking the community. I presume that's why you had it there, that if the community comes back and says, yes, we support having pit bulls in Miami-Dade County, then we take a serious look at our ordinance, which is banning them. But if it, on the other hand, it says keep it in place, then that's what we do. So I really didn't see it doing any harm, but only requesting an opinion from the community so that we can come up with our determination that best reflects what the community wants. And from that standpoint, I support it.
Thank you, Commissioner Jordan. Now it's my turn. Now that everybody mentioned the breeds, I have 4 Malteses that are, no, 4 is allowed, okay? So with that said, and 4, 3, 4, thank you. I helped do that, so I wanted to make sure. You guys got bigger dogs, that's your problem. But anyways, they're small, and one is an ankle terrorist. Okay, and it's the one that was the first rescue dog out of New Orleans, which I was very proud to bring, Catrino, exactly. And it is, they become part of our family. They are our family, and we tend to love our animals, as Commissioner Soto said very carefully. We've had dogs and different types of pets. The problem that we have is that this is not what the Commissioner and the Senator is trying to say is that we have 2 issues here. We have a breed ordinance that Commissioner Bobo was trying to get to the bottom of it to determine what actually has taken place in the time of this ordinance. And then we have a legislation nightmare, which is trying to preempt our government. I was in Tallahassee, and I spoke to the point of the preempting. We, Delia and myself, in fact, I got given an award a year ago, I was very proud to receive on the legislation and dealing with animals. Commissioner Hayman has been dealing with this longer than I have, okay? Nobody wins in this arena because everybody has got different opinions, even within your own groups. And I've dealt with it many times in my office, okay? The issue that we have here are two, and they're separate. One is that we cannot sit here because we have a sworn oath to protect the charter of this county. We cannot allow preempting of our laws. Every one of us swore an oath. Because if we allow that to take place, everybody in the state is going to be voting on the largest county that's larger than 17 states, okay, and 77 countries. So imagine what happens with the funding from here, where it goes, and many other things. That's why we have legislators that we all vote for to protect the interest of Dade County. You guys went there because you felt that that was the process to avoid maybe some local issues. And I can respect that. As, again, Senator Soto said, this is a democracy. You have many views and many ways of dealing with something. But the problem that is here is, one, the breed-sensitive issue. That needs to be addressed with a lot of education. Dalia could tell you, her and I have had this discussion many, many times. Education and trying to determine, as the lady spoke about, what is actually a pit bull, where does it go, to what level, what happens. Spaying and neutering, I'm trying to get, this county, make it the first really official no-kill county. We're working hard, and our director right there has been nonstop going to places along with the mayor and the administration to try to find the legislation. It saves us money, ladies and gentlemen. It saves in doing the right thing. We're all there. I don't think there's anybody opposing this whole thing. But we're stuck in a dilemma. The dilemma is not the actual breed of the dog, because we have a dangerous ordinance to take care of any dangerous animal, be whatever animal it is, especially dogs. Like I told you, I have a terrorist, nicest dog in the world, but he's an ankle terrorist. It's just the way he is, okay? But at the same time, the problem with the pit, and I had an Argentinian Dogo, so I know, which is some groups call the super pit bull, okay? I let go of it before, and the Dogo is not considered banned in here, if I'm not mistaken. And it's got a 1/4 inch more of jaw than the pit bull. I do know my breeds. And it's a mix of 11 different breeds of animal. And they use it, you know what, to hunt 500-pound wild hogs. And in Argentina. What's it called? Dogo, Argentinian Dogo. It's called the super pit bull. They know what I'm talking about. And that was the most sensitive dog. And you're right, Commissioner. When that dog would come, the postman came one day, and the dog, I think, just almost fainted on the way out, running. But you know what? It comes down to the training and who is the one with that dog and the treatment of that dog. The problem with the pit bull and pit bull types are the people that train those dogs to fight and train those dogs to be vicious and train those dogs to attack. And that's the problem. We need to address that source, too. I'm going to be dealing with the attorneys, because I want to have legislation increasing the penalties for dog fighting in the state of Florida. I want to take it to a higher felony level, because enough is enough. Just because you're a celebrity doesn't mean that you could get away with things. Okay? That is wrong. We need to address the problems, ladies and gentlemen, where the problem relies, not specific to just this or that. You wrote a pretty good way of putting it here, but you know what? That is not the issue. The issue is the people behind these animals. So we have to address that. So I want to be real clear in categories how we put this, and I understand the sensitivity that you have. Somebody tries to mess with my dogs, hey, it is what it is. It becomes family. Nobody messes with family. But the issue is that we have a lot of sensitive people in this community that are scared. We've had maulings, and unfortunately, we've had issues, but we need to educate and teach the difference. That's key. because it happens with humans. When you stand and see somebody that's maybe not dressed like you and maybe looks a little different than you and standing at a bus stop next to you, you're going to start looking a little different and saying, okay, and you know what? That's wrong too. But it is what it is. So I want to be real clear. I totally agree with my colleague, Senator Soto, that a straw vote is just that, especially as non-binding. It's a straw vote. And democracy, if we didn't have democracy, then you wouldn't be here because we were having other problems. And if you don't believe that, go 90-some odd miles away from here and you'll see what that's all about. Okay? So with that said, I just want to tell the maker of this that I count around, and I think it makes logical sense that we have two problems here. One is the actual breed, but the most immediate problem is a circumventing, and I think that's what the senator is more in touch with, like I am, and I'm sure everybody up here is, that they're preempting not only this, but what to put on our charter. That I have a real big problem with. And when I found out, when I went to Tallahassee, that it was dead, then I found out that it isn't, and it's moving strong again, to circumvent our own laws. I turned around and talked to a lot of them up there, and I told them, do you guys want us to really turn around and start looking at your government and start looking at how you do, where you work, what do you portray, okay? No term limits, you have no sunshine, you have no this, I mean, you have the term limit. But then, you know, you have other things that you don't have that we do, and we got to buy back. If we do what some of them do, we'd be in jail. Just based on the difference in strategies and what happens. We don't want to open that Pandora's box because we try to respect everybody's government and level of government. But when our government is being attacked and our charter that stood fast for a reason, our founding fathers in Dade County put it in place for a reason, we have to protect that, and we're sworn here to do so. It's not whether we like it or not. We swore an oath. And that's what's important here. So to your question, I think it was, Commissioner Jordan, can we try to stop it? And yeah, we have to try to stop it based on that issue. Now, can we try to deal with the ordinance and work with it? Yeah, I think it's time that we do, one way or another. But we have a real big problem with somebody circumventing our form of government. Like somebody coming to your house and going into your house and telling you, you better do this or do that, or else we're going to do this. You don't like it either. And we represent 2.6 million people here. And we're responsible. That's why we're elected. So please understand where I'm at. I respect my colleague wholeheartedly. If he decides to move on, I'll respect it. I hope that he maybe postpones to see what happens. But at the same time, I do not, and I agree, I'm not yes, sir kind of guy. Never been, never will be. I'm yes, sir, with respect. But not yes, 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 because to bow out. I think that we need to look at it both ways. And I think we need to have a frontal attack on the way the ordinance, the way we're being circumvented. And for the worst part is the other one, which they could do the vote and put whatever to vote on our slate without our ability. Then why are we here? Why do we represent this government? And somebody else is going to do it for us. So, go ahead.
If the ordinance, as proposed today, the straw ballot is approved today, it still goes before the full board. So what happens at that point if the legislation, I can see if the legislation dies this year, us taking up this issue before the entire board and moving it forward.
I agree.
But if the legislation passes, as we've been instructed, now that takes precedence. Our law becomes moot. What happens? Do we at that point just basically?
I think that's the worst scenario, to be honest with you.
Agreed.
That is possibly the worst scenario because not only are they preempting the law, they are not as sensitive as to what happened as we are within our own community, and we have the people sitting in front of us that we represent, and we need that ability. And to what you're saying, and I think that if they preempt us on this, it is a floodgate onto everything else.
I agree. The danger is not so much that a member of the Dade delegation proposes something that could affect us, folks, you know, I've been up there, and it doesn't stop somebody from the panhandle that has an axe to grind to decide they want to file some sort of legislation. And you know what? Sometimes when that tsunami moves, unless you've got somebody in the room negotiating on behalf of Dade County, and that could be questionable at times, you know, they could file something out of Pensacola, which is closer to Chicago than it is to Dade County, and we wouldn't be powerless to stop it. So I would vote it out, and then we could take it up again, Mr. Chairman. We could take it up again at the BCC, and at that point we could decide it's valid or it's moot at that point.
It's going to be within the timeline anyways.
Yeah.
Commissioner Jordan.
I just want to make, I think, when I think about it, Commissioner Soto's proposal to me makes even more sense in going now. Because I think it does send a message, even if it passes, that this community is going to see what the citizens want to happen, regardless to whether it passes or not. And if the citizen says that this is what we want, that's also sending a message to Tallahassee, that we're not going to roll over, that we are going to consider what the people want, that we feel in the beginning when we did this, we were doing what the people wanted. And if the people say they don't want it, then we'll respect that too. But I don't see how not doing it helps it in terms of what the legislature will do. I really don't, because whatever the legislature is going to do, they're going to do it anyway. But I think a message is sent that this is something that we're going to test in our own community.
Commissioner Bell.
Thank you.
Followed by Soto.
Good discussion, a lot of discussion.
It's an important issue.
Let me say something pretty bluntly. I think what happens sometimes, and we're not going to like this, it ends up in the legislature because many people that have been appealing to us feel like they're not getting anywhere, and so they have no other place to go. So we may not want to hear it, but it's the truth. So people are saying you have isolated only one type of breed, ignored the science, ignored the data. Yes, I know pit bulls can be dangerous when they're not properly handled and trained improperly. And I agree with you, Commissioner Diaz, that there should be extremely harsh penalties for any type of dog fighting, any type of any kind of animal fighting.
Or abuse.
But we already have a dangerous dogs ordinance. But anyway, I'm saying that to say, I understand it. We don't want to be told what to do by the Florida legislature. I agree with every one of my colleagues up here. I don't want to be told either. We have home rule. But the bottom line is probably it got to the Florida legislature as a last resort because the people felt like they weren't being listened to. And so let's be honest here. So I'm not I really do respect Commissioner Soto, and I do appreciate the spirit of this. I just don't like it to be on the ballot right now. I don't like the timing at all. I totally respect everyone's opinion, but at this point, I'm not going to support it. Thank you.
Commissioner Soto, followed by Commissioner Hayman.
Go. Let her go.
Commissioner Hayman.
Let me tell you something somewhat ironic. We're all sitting here listening to the same dialogue. And after the last statement when Barbara Jordan said, even more now, I support a straw ballot. And I'm thinking, even more now, either defer it or stop it. Because you know something? 20 years with a disparity, a discriminating practice, and no validity for it. And you know something? Let's go back to 20 years ago when it was a punishment detail for Miami-Dade Police Department to run animal services. There was no budget, and they had the rabies tags as the sole revenue for animal services at that time. That was the only line guaranteed, and then they supplemented it. We have evolved. We have partnerships, we have intelligence, we have professional operations, and soon we'll have a new site in Doral. So we have evolved. But you know something? Commissioner Bell was right. There was enough dialogue, and how ironic, It was a Dade legislator that put this on up in Tallahassee because we were not listening to people that said, sponsor something. So I got to tell you something. We heard the sentiment out here. I have listened to my colleagues here, and this goes more about timing and who should challenge our home rule versus how we felt about the discriminatory practice, because I think that's the one thing that there's consensus up here. There seems to be no validity for having this one county, one dog breed discrimination here. And so I got to tell you something. I'd like to defer it, and maybe the state will do what we haven't done in 20-something years, because at least they have something sponsored right now. But instead of and you can then, if you want, bring this back for a straw ballot thing, but I'll sponsor something as an ordinance and see if we can just ratchet up our dangerous dog ordinance. I'd love to see something with fighting, breeding, and antagonizing dogs, as well as the cruelty thing. It could be a separate thing, but we don't have single subject issue. But I got to tell you something. I think the time now is maybe instead of a straw poll, put it, change it, and not put it on the ballot. Just change the ordinance. You got 13 people up here, and I think the consensus from two, four, how many we got up here? 6 up here right now is not seeing a problem with it because there's no validity to show why it exists only for Dade County when, you know, we have problems with enforcement in the first place. And like I'll restate from the beginning to the conclusion, it's vague because even under Westminster and at least 4 different styles of pit from different breed lines, and you can't do a DNA to find out if it's a majority of something, do we know? And we're not going to put financial resources in for partial breeds. Do we know what we have? So I'd be happy later on just to sponsor getting rid of the ordinance and enhancing our dangerous dog ordinance instead. And you know something? I'm always about asking the people what they want. That's what homeowners associations are. That's what our district offices are. And I don't think anybody up here disputes what we do in interaction in the community. I think the timing is bad. And Commissioner Soto, I'll let you have one last time at it, but I'm going to move to defer this 1 month because I don't want to speak out again right before the end of session and further bring in the opportunity that the state is looking to encroach on our home rule and charter commission, charter standing.
Before Commissioner Soto begins, I want to be real clear, Commissioner. I understand the passion, and I'm even willing to go along certain lines and deal with what I said. I think I'm a man of my word and pretty straightforward in the way I've been saying it. My problem is we cannot allow the armor to take kinks in it. If that happens, and you could be correct, Commissioner Bell, that it was reason they're there is because we didn't follow up with it. But we are now taking up a lot of issues that we have never taken up before. A lot of issues have been brought forth, from No Kill Nation that's brought us the information to many other things that I've helped move forward, which never happened before. And I told them I'm willing to support, but through education and stuff, so then we could try to move this ordinance and try to do that. I was very clear, and I haven't changed my posture. But my problem is I cannot sit here and allow and go against something I sworn an oath to. That is my problem with this. Because once it starts, then don't get mad when a guy from the Panhandle, as somebody that served up there for quite a while knows, and there's 3 of them up here that served, don't get mad when they start saying, well, we don't want you guys to have this franchise. We don't want you to have this. We don't want this. And then they put it up. We're opening Pandora's box in the worst, ugliest way as a government. For that, then, you know what? Let's save a whole lot of money. Let's just shut down. Let the state run us. They do the rest of the counties. And the only difference between us and everybody else, and by the way, with all due respect, The same law that you might be fighting now, and the main thing is the same one that protects you down the road when it's something different. And that is the key thing. So there's always two sides to every, there's three sides and then the truth. So I want to be real clear that you understand there's some, what I do wholeheartedly agree with my colleague is that that's something we deal with, we should be doing with this internally. Maybe you don't want to deal with it, but we're going to need to deal with it. And that is something that I'm supportive of and taking this up and dealing with it. But I can't be here supportive of saying we're here to wait to see what the state, how they're going to govern us. I can't, not with the oath I swore to. That's a problem that I have. So, Commissioner, you want to say something before Commissioner Soto?
Mr. Chairman, the reason I was huddled there with counsel was that, you know, as this dialogue has been going on, I've been in communication with Representative Trujillo, and he's authorized me to go ahead and mention it because I didn't want to violate any, and just kind of like trying to get an idea whether this is something that is moving or not in Tallahassee. There is one committee left in the House. There's one committee left in the Senate. He believes it's it's moving. He does share with me, and I just use this for information purposes only, that if it's put on the ballot, not as a straw vote, but on the ballot, that he won't pursue the issue any longer in Tallahassee. So I just use that to share with my colleagues. Again, the timing on this is very delicate. If this debate was happening, you know, 2 months ago or a month ago, but it's happening, you know, 2 weeks before the session ends. So I share that with the rest of the body. You know, I don't know if it helps or not.
And I'll verify because Representative Trujillo told me the same thing. Okay, and he said, but out of respect to the person that's done the law, I had to wait to sit here because we have a sunshine issue. We cannot discuss it. So based on that, that's it.
Then, if I might.
Hold on, Commissioner Soto.
Yes, yes, I yield. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Mr. Attorney, I'd like to direct you to prepare an ordinance to strike the pit bull ban in Dade County and also enhance the Dangerous Dog Act if we can do it together. Otherwise, we'll do it two separate ones. But prepare an ordinance to do it. So I believe that will address what Commissioner Bovo just raised, and we'll maintain our line of leverage on home rule and charter, and prepare the ordinance for us as a commission body to strike down an ordinance that is discriminatory.
Is that on the ballot, Commissioner? Or
No, it's for us to straight out do what is. It's an ordinance that bans pit bulls. Let's file an ordinance to eliminate the ban.
Right.
And then whether it's Chair Diaz or myself or anybody else who wants to jump in on the dangerous dog, dangerous animal, and enhance that, we have it. But I'd like to get rid of that, and I believe that will address Representative Trujillo's act that said he did it because we didn't.
For the record, I don't know if I'm all the way there yet with Commissioner Hayman. I'm not sure if I'm all the way there. I just want to share that I believe if we, because still at core of this discussion, separate of what we've been talking about with regards to the dogs, and I know that's a very passionate issue, but separate of that is still at core the issue of Tallahassee dictating to us, okay? Now, saying all that, if the issue is left to the voters, if we allow the voters to weigh in on an issue like this, and it helps us stop this thing in Tallahassee, then I'm in favor of putting something on the ballot that is binding and allows the voters to go ahead and weigh in and, you know, because as much as today we're hearing from pit bull owners and pit bull lovers, you know, there are other people also that may have a different point of opinion, and I believe that we go back to the issue of
Point taken.
of Commissioner Soto, that, you know, let people weigh in. And we've talked on this dais, at least since I've been here for the last 6 or 7 months, there are issues that some of us may not like to have to deal with. We may not like the taste of it. We may be even opposed to it. But we felt that voters should go ahead and weigh in. We did it with this issue of term limits and salaries. Nobody was in favor of that. Nobody cared about it. You know what? But we felt that we needed to put it on there because a task review force had said we should. So I have no problem bringing it to the voters, letting them address it. Folks, it helps us, you know, at least gauge this issue and be able to get a sentiment. Something that happened 20, 25 years ago, people may think differently. Technology has exploded, different ways of doing things. So if it helps us alleviate the problem that we have pending in Tallahassee, Chairman, then if the sponsor entertains turning this into something that is from non-binding to something that's binding and put it on the ballot, let's have at it. We'll have to wait, though.
I have to-
Take further
I have to
testimony. Go ahead. Commissioner Jordan, follow.
No, I agree, because to me, to move on what Commissioner Hayman wants to do would be something that if the voters say yes, they do not want to ban pit bulls, then we would move on what Commissioner Hayman would want to do. But I would agree that if it's going to be binding, then that usurps the whole process of the interference, as far as I'm concerned. And, you know, I would support that before I would support getting rid of it without hearing from the voters. Because those of us who were around in '89 remember the pressures and why this went into effect. And so will the community.
Commissioner Soto.
So let me see. We've been
around the world twice.
We've been around the world twice, and I'm in no hurry. I know one thing. No, I know one thing. I know or several things. One is that
Make it binding. Make it binding.
one thing is that whatever happens in this committee today will send a message,
Correct.
one way or the other. We cannot leave this for generations in the future. Whatever happens in Tallahassee changes like the wind sometimes, you know. I've seen all kinds of things. I don't, you know, it ain't over till it's over, and it isn't over till the fat lady sings, as they say, right? So in Tallahassee, a million things can happen between now and then. Promises, promises, promises. That's a song, right? You can take promises. We can take promises. We also have to understand, and I've been listening to all of you very carefully. You know, I don't know if you know, there's been Senate presidents in Tallahassee that they never been to Miami-Dade County. Would you believe that? Would you believe that? In North Florida, most people don't know Miami-Dade County. They never been here. They don't know we are black, brown, white, you know, Japanese, Chinese, Mexicans. What are we, you know, Cubans, what? They don't know. They don't know. In North Florida, that's as Commissioner Bowe was saying, Pensacola is probably closer to Chicago than Miami-Dade County. And they couldn't care less. I can tell you stories about all that. So, you know, who do they care? Now, they want our money. They want our money. Because we're the county produces more money and they want our votes, of course. Of course, we decide elections, we decide presidential elections. So they want our money and they want our votes. But, when it comes to things like our charter and stuff like that, I don't know, well, So I think we better be careful, be very careful, because we're playing with dynamite here. And again, it's not the issue of the dogs, It's much more than that. Okay? So I'll do whatever you guys want to do. Okay? This is a committee, and whatever the will of the committee is, you count the votes, Mr. Chair. You are the chair. Okay? I just want what's good for Miami-Dade County. What's good for Miami-Dade County is good for me. Should be good for me.
Commissioner Hammond.
So whatever, Mr. Chair, you are the chair, and you decide on this committee. Whatever you want to do,
we decided.
you decide. You count the votes, and you have my full support, because I know how to work in committee, right?
Correct.
But this is first and foremost, Miami-Dade County. It's not about the dogs. It's not about this breed of dog, the breed of dog. Dogs are dogs, and I love all the dogs. But this is more than that, a lot more than that. So that's where the rubber meets the road. So, Mr. Chair,
Let me ask you.
You are the
then.
chair.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Senator, do you want to change it from non-binding to binding at this time? And
what's the will of the committee?
I think that's the will of this committee.
Then do it.
Okay.
Mr. Attorney, though.
Mr. Attorney, it looks like you're about to come out of your suit, so.
I'm going to spare you from that. That being said, what you can do is you can combine Commissioner Hayman's idea and that request. And what you would do is you would have an ordinance repealing the pit bull ordinance, and that ordinance would have an effective date. The effective date would be contingent upon the passage of a referendum. So the voters would vote, and the question to the voters would be, should the ordinance repealing the pit bull ban in Miami-Dade County become effective? If the voters vote yes, the pit bull ban will be repealed. If the voters vote no, it would not. That's a way that you could legally get this on the ballot. You'd combine the two ideas. We could draft up that ordinance, and it would go for first reading. If it gets put on the agenda for Tuesday, it could go on Tuesday. If not, it would go at the next commission meeting, and we could draft that for either through the Commissioner Hayman sponsorship or whoever else.
I think the
Excellent.
Senator and Commissioner Hayman both, it combines both. It'll be, both of them are prime sponsors.
Because-
I think it should work that way.
You can't do an ordinance onto the ballot unless you have a referendum about the ordinance. So that would have eased up, based on what Commissioner Bovo said about 20 minutes ago, but you cannot do it straight to it because it's an ordinance and the people don't vote on the ordinance, we do. So I love the idea, and I think it takes care of everybody's issue of inclusiveness to find out what's been happening in the last 2 decades as far as our constituent base, all of them care about. And I think we're going to see educated people voting properly on this. And it's a discriminatory practice. It's going to be who comes out to the vote then.
And that's fairness.
I'll be happy to
democracy.
co-sponsor it with Commissioner Soto or sponsor it with
Actually,
whatever his
Commissioner Soto and
preference.
yourself as prime, and the committee supports. Is there anybody against this idea? Okay. Mr. Attorney, frame it up the way it needs, and let's take a vote. Now, before that, I had a lady that I'm going to allow you brief. I don't do this, and we don't have the habit, but what I mean brief, please, just make a statement.
As brief as possible, real quick. Thank you all for your concern, first of all. One thing I would like to add, I've been listening to all these propositions on how the wording should be for this ban or removal or repeal the ban. Like I said, in 23 years, this county has been taught by the local government to fear pit bulls. I would highly recommend, please, do not use in your legislation you're about to draft the word pit bull ban. Use what it is called scientifically to date, breed-specific legislation. That it is what it is. It is not a pit bull ban. Let's not inflame the public any more than it is.
Thank you. And I would advise your organization, as many other organizations, you have democracy in front of you. You have education to do. I would do a lot of education at this point as we move forward and it comes to August. Mr. Attorney, frame it up for me.
Mr. Chair, you have an item pending on the table. You can lay it on the table, or you can defer it.
I'll accept the
and we will
motion to
proceed.
lay this item on the table. and then the other item we'll take.
We will
Do I have a
pretty much
motion to lay?
Second.
Move and second. None against? So be it.
Thank
Next
you.
item is the item that comes out of this.
We will prepare that for you and have that come.
Okay, actually, I would like that item. Can we not do it as a motion form, prepare it, and send it forth?
Very
I
good.
prefer to do, I don't want to waste time. I want to show Tallahassee that we are serious about what we're doing.
Very good. So we have a motion.
Set move.
I have, well, both of them are prime sponsors.
And
They
myself.
move it, and it's second. Anybody against? Okay, they will prepare the motion based about what we discussed.
Correct. We'll prepare the ordinance. It would be an ordinance. It would have to go to
I'm
first.
sorry, an ordinance. I
It would have to go to first reading. Again, when we prepare it and it's approved, we can ask the chair to assign it to a committee, and that would be Tuesday is the next committee. It would be an add-on. I believe the agenda is printed, but that's the
It will have to
the
come back to
soonest.
this committee.
And then it would come back to this committee if assigned to this
Okay,
committee.
so based on that, what we're trying to do is prove to Representative Trujillo and any other representatives and senators that we're serious about what we're discussing, and this is our government, and we want to fix our own problems locally here. So with that, you're preparing this, and I'll be back. Please expedite and talk to the chair. I'm sure he's listening, and if it has to be waived to the full BCC, I don't see it as a problem either. Okay? Okay. Before the dog issue, we
Question.
leave. Go ahead.
Would the ordinance that you're preparing go into effect before the vote?
No, as I understand the direction from this committee and from the sponsoring commissioners, what the ordinance would do is it would repeal the pit bull ban. The effective date of that ordinance would be upon approval by referendum of the electors on the August 14th election. Okay, if it is approved, it would become effective. If it is not approved, it would sunset, and the current law would continue.
Okay, thank you.
And that's the fairness of democracy. So with that, thank you. Commissioner Heyman?
Before we leave the dog issues, I'd like to, recognize our Animal Services Director, Alex Muniz, and let everybody know there's an effort with Bark Uppy for Pets Trust. Let me just suggest this right now. It is voluntary. The legislature is not taking up giving us the ability to add a new tax. What I encourage everyone to do is go to the Animal Services webpage, and they can voluntarily donate money instead of being taxed to our animal services. We have a trust there. It is tax deductible, and the money is used for subsidized and free spay and neuter, and also expanding our education efforts. And real quick on the dog fronts, no discrimination to cats. Partnering with our animal friends, Humane Society of Greater Miami, this Saturday is having their dog walk for the animals at Bayfront Park, and on Sunday, March 25th, at the Shops in Midtown, Miami Lighthouse for the Blind is doing the Lighthouse Dog Walk. There's brochures out there. They'll be on my webpage. They'll be on Animal Services webpage, we hope, and we hope to see people get involved. It's all about responsible ownership. Thank you, and thank you to my colleagues.
Madam Attorney. I need direction to Joe Roscoe for our legislative side to prepare a letter, I guess to ask the chairman, the letter be prepared to show the intent of this body, even though probably we'll contact the representative ourselves, but to show the intent of this body and that it's being prepared and move forward at this time so we could avoid that issue. Now, with that, what's pending?
You have approval of the meeting minutes for December and January.
I have a motion, a second. Anybody against? Next
And
item.
that was 5A. We